What's up, guys? Iván here, and welcome to Coffee with Iván. I'm really excited about today's episode because the guest is the first non-musician to be here at the show. Today I'm talking to Jim Elli. Jim is a powerlifting coach and also runs the social media for the powerlifting coaching company Reactive Training Systems. In this episode, we talked about how to organize yourself to be able to perform and deliver when you're constantly traveling and are surrounded by new and unknown environments and situations all the time. We talked about building habits and keeping consistency, as well as the importance of social media in today's world. If you want to learn more about what Jim does, don't forget to check out his Instagram at Jim_RTS, the Instagram of Reactive Training Systems, which is at Reactive Training Systems, as well as their YouTube channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys in a bit. I mean, how did you end up running media, also being the coach and working with a lot of athletes?
That's a good question. Well, when I first started coaching with Reactive Training Systems, I wasn't exactly asked. I asked them, I was 18 and I had my own coaching company for powerlifting, and I had like 15 clients, but my business model wasn't great because I wasn't charging enough, basically. And also I knew there was a big knowledge gap from what I knew how to do and what I wanted to be able to know how to do, to like kind of ensure some longevity with my abilities. Mm-hmm. And at the time I had two options. I could either expand my business and have people work with me, or I could work with another company that already existed that had more experience and time and knowledge. So I pretty much reached out to like 5 or 6 different companies that I knew of, because in 2014 there weren't a lot of online coaching companies. It was like a new thing that was happening online, and most of them rejected me because I didn't have, I didn't have credentials that they thought were important. Mm-hmm. Which is funny because, no hate, but there's not a lot of education you can get in college that's going to get you ready for an online coaching career.
Yeah.
And I think they were also looking at the wrong skills, honestly, but whatever. And then I reached out to RTS and Mike specifically because he didn't have a big team at the time. He did have some people working with him, but I realized that we had some values that were in alignment, like some values that really resonated with me and were things that I was really comfortable with. And then at the same time, because I had my own company, I noticed that he didn't have a lot of skill with social media. Like, he wasn't even on Instagram when I reached out to him. And at the time, I had already had 2 Instagram accounts, which, whatever, they weren't going well, but at least I knew how to use them.
Yeah.
And his YouTube channel was good. Like, the videos are cool, but I could tell that they could be improved. And I pretty much reached out to him one night, like after I had been rejected by everyone. And I was like, okay, so this is kind of my final request, my final, it's either this or I build my company, and it's going to be a big uphill battle. So I said, look, man, I'm going to be doing coaching with you or without you on my own. I'd love to do it with you, and I think that we can probably benefit a lot more from each other if you let me, take me under your wing, and, I'll intern for you, I'll work for free while working for myself. I wasn't like going to quit and then also work for free, but that was what my proposition was. And I said, at the same time, I'm going to help you with social media and YouTube, and I have a lot of experience with that, or enough experience where I think I can help. Like, I wasn't that much experience looking back at it. It was just like I knew how to use a camera and I knew how to make decisions, edit it and audio, and I was better than they were at it at the time. But looking back, it's still pretty bad. And he was like, yeah, it sounds good. I don't really have an internship spot open, but maybe we can do something else. And so he got in a call with me and talked about what I could offer. He asked me why I liked coaching. And he wanted to know basically if I was just in it for the money, or if there's something intrinsic about coaching that I really liked. And I remember that call because I was like, well, yeah, of course I like money. Like, I think most people in that situation, if they're like, well, are you doing this for the money? And they're like, no, I would never. And it's like, well, then you probably shouldn't be on a team that is only successful if we make money from it, you know? Like, yeah, I like the thing. I like coaching. I like the aspects of showing people that they can become stronger than they were before, and like hopefully get them to compete at a high level. But if there was no money in it, I probably wouldn't do it either.
Yeah.
You know? So that kind of just expanded once he said yes to that. I was like, okay, well, so how can I help with YouTube? How can I help with the podcast? And it took me a long time to like take more control over it. For a while, I was just following the processes that he had already developed because I was more comfortable with that than like doing my own thing. But now that I have had so much experience and like invested, I mean, there's a lot more. I'll like wait for another question, I think, but there's another step to this that was really important. But that's kind of how I got the gig.
Like, what is for you the importance of social media for a company or for a business nowadays? Because for the last, I think, 3 episodes that I've done here with musicians mainly, all have mentioned to me that being a musician nowadays means being more than just playing an instrument. You know, you have to be a producer, you have to be a content creator, you have to be able to edit and everything. How does that apply to a different business?
Yeah, like within coaching, well, it's kind of up for debate, I think. My position is that if you're an online business, then you should understand how social media works, because how else are you going to get the attention of the people that you care about, especially now where, you know, we could get by with less social media when there are a lot more meets happening, because we would invest in going to the competitions and we would show up and people would see that we exist. So that was a big way for us to like market ourselves. But now that there are less competitions, but people still want to get stronger, they still want a coach to help them, you know, empower themselves and through powerlifting. Social media is one of those places where I only started lifting because of social media. I remember I was watching a guy named, I don't know if you've heard of Matt Ogus.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I used to watch him back in the day, and I thought, oh crap, he's jacked, you know? And I saw him on YouTube. Like, I was watching YouTube. I don't know how else I would have figured out that powerlifting was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did find out that it was a thing through college, but I wouldn't have, I mean, I can't say I wouldn't or would have, but like, I was more willing to say yes to that opportunity because I found out about lifting through YouTube and through social media. And, you know, if you're coaching, I feel like social media is a way to give value for people so that they can decide if they like what you're given. And, you know, I think that's valuable. So I think social media is huge, and understanding how it works from a video production standpoint and actually sounding good to then how do you leverage the specific platforms, which is always difficult because, you know, you got to mess with the algorithms. And like, for example, we have been posting YouTube videos for 10 years with Reactive training systems. And
Wow.
I was looking at the last 10 videos, like the most popular ones, and the most popular ones are the ones that have been on there for the longest amount of time. But the issue is it's hard to tell why. Mm-hmm. Because the funny thing is, like, the most popular videos, they have like few hundred thousand views. It's like Mike deadlifting, you know, 800 pounds for 5 or something crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like recorded on his like Samsung 5 or something, you know, some old, like, probably not even, I don't know, 10 years ago. Did they have iPhones 10 years ago?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but it was
okay.
2 or something.
Yeah, so like it was really bad quality. You know, he's not saying anything or doing anything. He's just lifting, and it's got 150,000 views.
Yeah.
And you look at the most recent videos, and I got a Sony A7 III, and I got professional mics and professional lighting, and I have we rented an Airbnb that we could use to like record these videos, and they have like 1,500 views.
Yeah.
Which isn't. I'm not complaining about it. That's good. It's a niche market, so I kind of understand, but at the same time, it's like we made a video that was 2 minutes long this week because I didn't have a lot of time. I wanted to get a video out, and there's a short one, so I made it. And I decided to implement a new strategy, which was basically just following the YouTube like algorithm for thumbnails. Like I'm sure you use it, where it's like you go in Photoshop, you screen grab like some part of the video where you're looking shocked or whatever, or just looking expression. If you have an expression, and then you have like the grabby thumbnail title thing, and then like we added a guy benching in the background, and it's like that video blew up. I mean, for a 2-minute video, it didn't get crazy, but it got 2,000 views within like 5 days versus 1.5 in like 2 weeks. It was a significant improvement compared to what we usually do. And for like a 2-minute video, usually 2-minute videos don't get the support from YouTube.
Yeah.
They don't like throw them on the Discover page. So that means our actual audience that gets notified about our posts were more likely to click on it. So things like that, it's like, it's really important and frustrating because you didn't think you'd need to know these types of skills probably as a musician.
Yeah.
I had a call with a mutual friend, and he's in film. He was in film in Manhattan. He had done like sound design and audio engineering, and he had helped produce a film, or like he's a cinematographer. So he understood a lot about the higher level intricacies of video production.
Yeah.
But that's still not the same as social media. Like,
No.
it's still a different world. Making a film and making something that people watch on YouTube require similar skills, but they also require a lot more hats to wear, on YouTube. So I think it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, for example, today I've been doing thumbnails and editing the video that's going out for YouTube, and also the video that's going out for Instagram, because those are two different videos and also two different thumbnails to fit the format and whatnot. So it takes more time that people actually realize.
Well, I didn't even want, dude, I've been told like you got to have better Instagram thumbnails. I'm like, whatever, dude, I'll just resize it, reformat it or whatever. And then it's like, I don't know if you've seen the Instagram, but I'm sure you noticed this, but it's like you do the thing that you do for a while, and then someone points something out to you, and you're like, "Oh man, that's way better." What the hell was I doing the whole time?
Yeah, definitely, all the time.
I get frustrated by that, but I'm happy at the same time. It's like, oh wow, but then you do something that works super well, and then you're like, it's like this one thing, this one trick will get you, more followers on Instagram. It's like, no, actually, there are some of those things that are like, if you make better thumbnails or stupid captions that have like, cursive writing on them as like, the catchphrase, they do well. And it's like, what? Why? Why do people care about this? Look at the video. It's cool.
Yeah.
You can't even get their attention unless it looks exactly what they're expecting, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's really, really interesting is, for example, I share a video that had some good information. It took me years to understand and to realize. And, I make the thumbnail and everything. And that sometimes gets, or I would say like 3/4 of the time, that gets less attention or views than a picture of my bass. I'm like, dude, I'm sharing information that's taken me years to understand, and we want to share with you, and it doesn't come across.
It's hard too, because you have a lot of information to share, and like, it's actually helpful objectively.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with that a little bit, with like, this information is helpful if you pay attention to it and listen to it, and you want to. But like, what if you don't know you want
Yeah.
You want to. And that's where I think these like really annoying rules come in. Or not even rules, just like, because the landscape changes, obviously. 5 years ago, the catchy thumbnails weren't as important.
Yeah.
And now it just seems like they are. It's like, you wouldn't think that the subtleties of something like a thumbnail or the title of the video would matter so much.
Mm-hmm.
But the analogy that I was told yesterday was, if someone's running, going crazy on the street, they're dancing on the street, they're looking, just going nuts, you're going to pass them and you're going to look at them. But if you don't know who they are and they look crazy, they're like, drunk or whatever, you're probably going to keep going. Yeah. But if it's John Travolta dancing in the street, you're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, what's this about? And I think that's kind of that idea that like content and quality, they need to be there, right? So like, if you just have the quality but no content, no like value, then you'll still get some views, but you won't have a long duration of watching. If you don't have the quality or like the thumbnail quality or like the flash factor, the wow factor, then you won't get the views because you don't even catch their attention. So there's a lot of new skills that you kind of realize are important, because you put all this energy into the sharing of the knowledge that you have, and then no one watches, and it's like, what the fuck? Do you not know what this is going to do for your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Speaking about what you just mentioned, of being like ready to take that knowledge. I know you're also big on like, improving yourself and just, become a better person. And I remember you did I don't know if it was an Instagram story or a post about taking cold showers in the morning every day, and to face or to take uncomfortable situations on your everyday life to improve. How what can you share about that? Like, what are your thoughts about putting yourself in different spots?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because that was a habit that I had developed for a while, and I was on a streak of like, eight months of just cold showers only, and it was very valuable for me for a while, because it is like a habit of doing something that is uncomfortable. Very rarely do people wake up in the morning and think, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to jump in a cold shower right now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to, it's not like you're jumping in the Arctic. It's not like your shower can get that cold anyway. I mean, unless you have an older house, most people's showers can't get that cold. Mm-hmm. It's just, room temperature at worst usually, or maybe a little bit colder than that. But the alternative is like a nice sauna, that you get to sit in for 5-10 minutes and just, relax. But I noticed that if I sit in comfort, then I don't breathe as much and I don't calm down as much, because why would I need to calm down if I'm comfortable, right? But there are all these thoughts that are in my head that I'm experiencing, and if I'm in that place of comfort right in the morning, which I usually am. I mean, in the mornings, it's like, oh crap, I got all this stuff to do. I need a lot. There's messages that I have on my phone and on my email, and I'm not ready for that yet. And I've recently started up again, because most of the pandemic I wasn't doing that, and I noticed that over time it was really impacting my mood in the beginning of the day, because I was focusing more on the stressor than I was focusing on myself. And so I had been getting into this habit of like, if there was a problem, it was someone else's fault, like in my head, like who do I gotta talk to today? Who's gotta, step up? But then I started realizing, like in the last year when I was doing cold showers all the time, I didn't think about anyone but myself, like in a good way. Like, I got to take responsibility for my actions and how I feel about what's going on, and how can I improve my habits and my sleep schedule, and, sticking to the calendar that I set for myself. And like a cold shower is one of those things where it's like, you don't want to. I kind of want to now because I know it makes me feel good, but still there's that like, okay, I'm going to have to breathe. I'm going to have to sit here. And a cold shower is kind of analogous to like sitting in front of something and that you don't love, but you have to accept. And you accept that it's cold. Now what? Well, now you breathe through it. Now you sit there and try to find a way to enjoy this experience that isn't what you were expecting, but it's probably good for you. And mostly what it does for me is gets me in that state of kind of that meditative state where you're breathing through your feelings and your thoughts, and you're letting yourself focus on kind of like the core of yourself versus a lot of people, and myself included, it's always up in my head. You know, what do I got going on? What's the next thing to do? Da, 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 da. And it's like, if you were to put that and translate it to breath, it would be like, you know, versus when you get into a cold shower or you just actually meditate, which is another thing that you can do on top of that.
Yeah.
That's all about
a deep breath. Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy because I don't know how musicians are, but I know there are a lot of people like in like business that are like, meditation is for, you know, it's not helpful, and why would you meditate when you get more work done? And it's like, because there's always more work to do and not enough time to get it done. So there's no escaping that. You can't do more work to get closer to the completion. You're never done. Like, at best, you get close to something you're happy with and then you die. You know, like, for real, like, at best. And so if you can get more comfortable with like appreciation of that discomfort that you have with knowing there's all these things you want to do, then you can actually appreciate the people that are around you versus like constantly stressing out about, because this is what I do, you know, I constantly stress out about like what's happening at work, or, you know, a new situation that I've never experienced, and the way I'm presenting it is really like stressful as well. People aren't really pumped to listen to the fact that you're just ranting for 10 minutes or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about it. And people look at me crazy all the time. Like, you would actively take a cold shower, you know? And like, is it really that bad? Like, it's water.
Yeah. You're not going to die, right?
Yeah, like, and that's the thing, is that you can kind of associate it with like death, but really what it is a disruption of routine.
Yeah.
It's a disruption of what's normal, and I think that that's really valuable, especially right now. But it's normal, it's valuable all the time. There's always uncertainty, and I think it kind of brings that selfishness that is actually really important. That like being aware of the self and how we feel about ourselves, and instead of waiting for that next dopamine hit from Instagram or YouTube, or, you know, the girl you're talking to or guy or whatever, there's just value in that, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I meditate also every day. I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years. I started doing that before I moved to Germany from Peru, because, you know, I was moving here, all the stress with all the visa permits and whatnot. I'm moving to a different country and speaking other languages. And also because I had an accident. So I had a hip accident, and it took me 6 months to walk again. And it helps.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time. It helps to reduce the pain, even today. So just 10 minutes of meditation, it's crazy how effective that actually is, to just rewire your brain and be able to take more work later.
When you first started meditating, like, what was your experience with it?
I thought it was kind of weird. I didn't really believe it. Like, my mom sent me to a yoga coach, which is my friend now. And he was like, yeah, take deep breaths, go to 4, and then breathe in, breathe out, and all that. And I was like, what? Like, how is this going to help me? But after every session, I was feeling completely refreshed. And I was like, maybe there's something here. But then to make it a habit, to do it on my own, it took some time.
I think people also think they got to do it for like 2 hours a day to like be effective.
Yeah.
It's like, you better do it if you better do nothing for 2 hours. It's like, you can't convince that many people to do nothing for 2 hours, even if there is a benefit, because there's a cost. There's a cost to that too. And imagine like you had to take like a 2-hour break at work because you got to meditate. I don't know if a lot of people would be like on board, but 10 minutes is like 10 minutes to reset and refocus. Do you find that? Do you resonate with that idea of like selfishness? Like my perspective on it is, if you can't prioritize yourself and how you feel, then how are you going to help other people around you?
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed that when I do that, those 10 minutes, I'm, like I mentioned, I feel way clearer in my head. I can take new input, sources from outside, way better, and react or take action much more clearly than if I'm just to go just like that.
Yeah, do you find yourself, especially with your art, and like, I mean, I watch your videos too. They're pretty fun to watch, and I'm not even a bassist, you know.
Yeah.
I play guitar sometimes, but bass is one of those exercises. Bass is one of those instruments where it looks like it would be like the same as guitar, but I've tried to play it and it's just not. Like,
Yeah.
obviously it's similar because of like the progressions and things, but the actual chords are like twice as thick, and you got to like really pluck them to
Yeah.
make them make noise, you know.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're a type of person that has a difficult time like hearing that you could improve? Like, if someone watches your video and you get a comment, it's like, this video sucks, you don't know anything, you know, or whatever. Like, or they say something more like, this video is cool, but have you ever done it this way? Or, you know, I guess what my question is, like, how do you respond to criticism usually compared to when you meditate?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question. For example, I remember pretty clearly there was a guy that commented on a video review that I did. He was like, "This video sucks." Really, like, that was the sentence. And I read it. I kind of laughed at first because I was like, "Okay, what's wrong with this guy?" And then I was like, "Okay, let's say, James, what could have I improved?" I replied, and he was like, "Oh wow, that's usually not the response that I get." Yeah, I felt like this part could have been maybe a little longer, and you demonstrated this and that. And I was like, "Okay, cool, man, thanks."
That's so crazy how he turned around once you like gave him some attention.
Yeah. But usually when somebody comments like that, I just ask them, "Okay, why do you feel like that?" Just try to understand the perspective.
That's not to come off patronizing, but that's really mature. I mean, and I think a lot of people would benefit from just doing that, because I think especially with people on the internet, like, if you have the time to like say this video sucks,
Yeah.
I think it's really a reflection of the fact that they don't get any attention for the work that they do. And so it probably feels somewhat like upset that someone would like put out content that they didn't make, but would be worse than what they think that they could make if they did it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's not always the case. That's just the optimist in me. But it reminds me of a YouTube comment that I got back in the summer when I was traveling. I was in Budapest, and I was out. I remember it because it was one of the videos where I was really excited because it was the first time I was able to get like 4K footage of Mike talking about powerlifting stuff. You know, we're outside of his garage gym, and we were doing some Q&A questions, and it's actually a video on AMRAPs. It's like AMRAPs for powerlifting, and there's this guy, and he's commenting in there, and I was out like at a club or whatever, and I was on my phone, and I saw it, this comment. I was like, I was excited actually because I got a comment, because it was one of the first times I did this new thing with the channel. And he's like, "You're doing everything wrong. You know, you're not even using B-roll properly. Why are you both standing in the same, like in the center of the frame? It looks awkward. It's kind of uncomfortable. You know, like all these things, like very specific things,
Yeah.
a little bit exaggerated to the point of like, some people think if you don't do these things, then you shouldn't put the video out at all. At the same time, those are valuable things if you had the equipment and the technology and the, you know, speaking of B-roll, usually with B-roll, you are highlighting the thing that you're talking about. But at the same time, when it's powerlifting, anything that's powerlifting in my mind is good for B-roll. You know, if it's just a guy lifting, it's fine. That said, yeah, you can always get better. Point is, I was out and I got like pissed. Like, I was down. I was like at the club, like talking to someone. I was actually with a group of Irish people.
Yeah.
And we were in a British bar and they were just ripping on the British bar because, I don't know, apparently there's some beef. But I was like, this guy commented on my YouTube channel. And I don't know why he's so mean. Like, why is he so mean? Like, this is so upsetting. And so then I actually got a mentor after that video because I was like, well, there's probably some validity here, and I don't know what I'm doing in like terms of properly framing scenes, and how do you do a video with two people in it, and how do you utilize B-roll in a better way, and that was a valuable thing that he commented, even if I don't think there's a lot of validity to like the severity of his comment. I didn't want to be in a position where I couldn't respond like with confidence about why I did the thing I was doing,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten that too. Like, for example, a couple of comments or just messages from people. They've told me, have you tried doing this way, or the line looks shitty, or something like that, or the audio is this and that. And I was like, oh fuck, why are you like giving negative feedback? But then I think it's time to just take a step back and really check it out and ask yourself, okay, could I have done it better? Is there something that I'm missing here?
I almost like hope for those comments too, because it means they've really paid attention.
Yeah.
This guy commented on very specific points of the video that you couldn't have commented on if you didn't watch the whole 10 minute of the video. So now it's almost annoying I love it when people give positive feedback, but it's not helpful. It's just like, hey, I loved it. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
What else? Do you think I should do better?
Yeah.
What do you want more of? Do you want me to do less of it? Like, and I'm not ripping on the viewers. I think it's great to have that, but it's like the negative feedback does help because it's on your mind the rest of the rest of the year almost until you fix it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, screw you, I'm going to make better videos now,
Yeah.
Take that.
Was it a reason why you started doing, like, for example, videos about powerlifting and, I don't know, technique videos and stuff like that, because the content out there wasn't how you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I saw what we were doing and what had worked in the past, but it seemed like there's a point at which it didn't, like, everything was just harder to get attention. Like, our view count just started dropping and dropping and dropping, and it was like, why? We're doing the same thing we used to do. Why is it getting worse? And so my thought was, well, let's upgrade it, make it higher quality. Let's keep up with the times. Let's get better audio. I mean, one of the biggest things in the past was Mike would always record his audio in the car, driving on his iPhone, Apple headphone microphone. That was where the audio was coming from. So it was always like background noise, which, to be honest, isn't as bad. It's kind of soothing, the background noise, to some degree. Like the car, driving on a car, and it's kind of soothing. I listened to it again and I was like, you know what, this isn't as horrible as I might have perceived it back then. I think it was more of an insecurity back then, but still, if you could get like a Shure SM7 8 or what is this, SM58, I mean, or SM7B, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine people would love listening to them, And so it's hard because even if I want that, what if we do it and then there's no change in view count? I'm of the opinion that you need to get everything right for YouTube. As everything gets more and more saturated, I don't know why you would allow yourself to be aware that there's something that needs to improve and not improve it. Like, I realize there are time constraints. Like, I realize there are both time and now the pandemic has hit, so actually getting video content is really hard. But now, even more than ever, you need to know as much as you can for yourself so then you can get the content out in the case you can't travel. I think you got to wear a bunch of hats. And I took on that responsibility on my own. I was just like frustrated with the fact that I could see all these things that we could improve on, and it didn't seem like anyone else had the time to get it done. So my desire was to use the money that I was making and invest in the equipment. I want to take a step back, though. The only reason I even learned about how to use cameras on this level was that I was doing professional sports photography for powerlifting for 2 years. Oh. And I learned how to use a camera doing that while I was coaching. And then once I learned enough from that, I was like, wait, I can get pictures for us then too. I wasn't doing a lot of video at the time. I was actually afraid to do like video, video content because it was more intimidating than just taking some pictures and throwing some contrast and setting the white balance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And And then once I became more aware of how to use a camera in general, like from like setting the exposure properly and how ISO works with shutter speed and what am I missing? The aperture, right? Like how all those three work together. It's like, oh, well, now I can go into an environment and record a video and make sure that when it comes out, it's not white, you know? So learning about the skill and how to use a camera in general piqued my interest in what else is there. What else can we do? And how can I take this info for video? And then I was like, wait, I know how to do this. Like, why not use this resource that I have? Because I think it's going to help us. I don't know to what degree it's helping or hurting. I don't know what would happen if we didn't upgrade and we're still in the same spot. Would we have the same amount of views or less? My perspective is I think we'd have less, but at the same time, it's not like we're back to 20K views a day or anything. So I mean, we never had that. But like I looked at a video that I recorded on my iPhone in 2015 or 16, and it has 11,000 views.
Wow.
And it's me talking about Romanian deadlifts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm in this game right now of what content do people want? Why do they watch it? Is it because of the video? That's that content versus quality thing. Like you kind of need both, but trying to find the content that your audience wants might not be the content that you want to share, which is, I think, even more frustrating. Is like, but what about this thing? This thing's important. They're like, yeah, you don't care, Or the people that do, it's a very small portion of your subscriber base.
Yeah. Is there a thing in powerlifting that, or in lifting in general, that catches a lot of attention? But for example, for the guys listening right now who are bass players, I know all you guys just click immediately on slap bass videos that get all the views, and that's the thing that nobody actually uses like nowadays. It's like just a very, very small fraction of bass playing, but it's flashy and it catches attention, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I just always think of, I bet every bass player is so annoyed because of the movie I Love You Man.
Yeah, slap a bass.
Slapping the bass. That's all I ever think about when it comes to bass. But anyway, now your whole audience is like, this guy sucks. Yeah, the thing that I think is most catchy is form checks, like form reviews, technique reviews. Not that that's not important, but our kind of how we operate as coaches is like everyone is going to have a technique that works for them. And there is value in reviewing people's technique, I think. I mean, I think there's actual cues you can use to make people improve the way they feel about the lift. But people can take it too far and say, this is how you lift, like universally. It'd be like saying, this is how you play the bass. It's like, here are some techniques that can help, but ultimately you got to figure out using those understanding, those fundamentals, how to make the best sound for the bass, or how to make the lift as strong as it can be for the individual. But they're really catchy because it's like, oh, I want to watch someone else, like their technique. I want to learn about my technique. And I think it's like, or like the difference between different exercises is like, it's difficult because those are videos that have been done and done and done and done and done. But it's like everyone wants to watch them. You could watch the, sumo deadlift versus conventional deadlift, or wide grip bench versus close grip. And it's like, there's no real dichotomy there. They're just two different lifts that do different things. It's not one is better or one is worse, but at the same time, people like it. So it's frustrating because I can make that video, but it's not like I'm passionate about it, but it would be helpful for our audience. So it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing where you want to do what you want to do, but you also, doesn't matter if what you want to do doesn't match up with what your audience expects from you. And we're kind of on the fringe for powerlifting too. We're kind of in this other space within powerlifting where we're pretty much saying that the most important thing is the individuality of it. Whereas most people are making videos are like, well, if you're all watching me, then how can I help as many of you at once without getting too individualized? Yeah. And that's kind of the issue. If you want to be a good coach and you're saying, here are some things that work for everyone, but maybe not you, and you,
Yeah. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I imagine it's similar for teaching bass. Like,
yeah, for example, yesterday, I think like I teach also. I have a couple of students, and it's always really interesting to me when watching someone pick up the instrument. How many like little movements, hand positions that to me are completely irrelevant or just so wired in my head that I don't think about them. That I really have to pay like 110% attention to watch their hands and see why something is not working as intended, and also to see their physiology as well, because I don't know, people with bigger hands grip things differently, have their hand different positions. So I have to say, okay, is he doing this because of, I don't know, he has longer fingers, or he's just doing the technique in the wrong way, right? So you have to take things differently on an individual basis. There's a general approach. You should not bend your wrist like this because you're gonna get injured.
Yeah.
But everyone's gonna react differently.
That's so cool that you mentioned like hand length, because I remember when I was playing guitar, like I don't have the smallest hands now, but when I was younger I did, and you're learning from a person that's fully developed, so they have like their hands, their hand size, and it's like one of the things I noticed, a lot of guitar players have really like meaty fingers, like a lot of like width to their fingers. And I was like, mine aren't like super wide. I don't know, you can see them, but I was like, is that why it's easier for him to like nail? When you do like a chord and you have to have like one finger taking up the whole fret.
Yeah. The bar chord. Yeah.
Yeah, bar chord. Like, is it because I don't have thick enough fingers, or am I holding it wrong?
Yeah.
And I guess ultimately you got to figure out what works, but like those things matter. And if with lifting, it's like, I can say how it works for me and what I've noticed for me, but it also probably works for me because my arms are like twice the size of my torso. Not everyone's arms are that long. So the advice might need to be more general. I think when people get too specific with the how-tos, that's when becomes kind of problematic. I think when it comes to tutorial stuff, you can go with the fundamentals and get it right. Like you can say something like, for guitar, you need to make sure that your finger there's enough pressure on all of the strings so that the sound doesn't what's it called, like a mute, or like if you're like playing and like you miss the sound, like it's like boom, versus you just mute it, right? Because you don't have enough pressure on the string. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've played guitar, but I don't know the technicalities, of all this stuff. But like you kind of have to do that. So that's the important thing. How you do it, well, maybe you can get some help with optimizing it for you, for the individual. But like you can't make a YouTube video about here's how to hold the guitar. You can. That's catchy, but it's not always. Even if in the video they don't say specifically how, it's just the title is misleading, and so it's hard to do that with lifting. I guess I don't like to mislead anyone, and so when you get really specific about nuance, it's really not sexy. It's like, here's how you might be able to potentially lift weights if you look like this or whatever. And it's like, no one's clicking on that video.
Yeah, that's one thing that, for example, I've tried to avoid using like clickbaity titles for my videos, because I just don't want to mislead anyone, like you're saying. It's like, for example, I don't know, I recently released one was called Classic Rock Bass Tone, and that's it was covering a type of classic rock bass sounds, but it could have been titled like you need this one technique to get a classic rock tone, right? And that probably would have gotten more clicks, but or there's one hack for a rock tone or stuff like that. I don't like doing it,
Yeah, it's hard to figure out the best way to be authentic and then also helpful.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to watch your videos if you don't grab their attention. So arguably, if you don't use clickbaity titles, then you're helping less people. If you do use if you don't use them, you're helping less people. If you do use them, you're helping more people. You might mislead a few, but hopefully at some point, in the video, you're like, hey, I know this is kind of clickbaity. We're actually going to be talking about this or something like that. That's like a strategy that I've been thinking about. It's like, I know we called this video how to add 500 pounds to your deadlift in one day, but we're actually going to be talking about how that is a misleading title, and how you actually can gain strength. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a strategy you could try, like how to become a master in one day or whatever.
Yeah.
A master bass player.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now I know you mentioned like recently that you were in Budapest traveling. How many countries have you been to?
I always forget the answer to this question because I traveled from 2017. I was like from 2017 until the end of the summer of 2019. I wasn't in the same place for longer than 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I was in a lot of different countries, a lot of similar countries. I'd return to a lot of them. And I believe the number is 21.
Okay. Was it mostly Europe?
Yeah, mostly Europe. I went to the few like off the European, off the Europe track was Australia, New Zealand, Dubai, and Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna go to not Cuba, Puerto Rico, but I didn't. There was a potential plan there, but we were traveling a while for seminars. And then I decided I wanted to just travel on my own because I was making money online. And the whole reason to make money online was to travel and to be independent from location. Ironically, now I live in my parents' basement, and I have a whole apartment down here.
Yeah.
And I have everything I could ever want now, like from a production standpoint. That's difficult to do when you just have a laptop and you got like one bag of clothes and some deodorant and a toothbrush. Like it's hard to get a lot of that. We just talked about for a while the importance of getting everything right. If you're traveling like that, it's really hard to get everything right because you're making sacrifices by not having like a setup.
Yeah.
And it gets expensive. Like most of my money I was spending on travel. So at the same time, it was like the best decision ever because now I feel like I have so much more understanding of how people live. I mean, I've been to Germany, I've been to Berlin, I've been to Frankfurt, I've been to, the Netherlands, I've been all over the Netherlands. I've been to so many of these places where I can now actually relate to the people that I'm like. Before traveling, talking to you would have been like, not that it's not a novelty, it's great, but it would have been like, oh my God, I'm talking to someone that lives in another continent, which is cool as hell, by the way, but it's like, it's something that I'm used to and more appreciative of. So I'm not like, how do you have an iPhone? Do you have Snapchat in Germany? When I was traveling, actually, one time, there was a guy who I met who was from Minnesota, which is where I live.
Yeah.
And he had just flown into Sweden. I was staying in this hostel in Sweden. He was like the definition of like a first time traveler because his eyes were constantly like, just, wow. Oh, shit, they have food here? You guys have bread? Whoa, you have a supermarket? You have 7-Eleven here? It's like all these like things that he's noticing. And he's just like, oh. He's getting like, hit in the face with like shock 24/7. Like the girl who talked to a girl and they had like a different accent. Oh my gosh, you can speak English? It's like, you just pick up on these things that there's a lot more people have a lot more in common in different places than I think a lot of Americans would like to imagine. Mm-hmm. Maybe the actual government that like is in each country is different, but the people within them I found to have very, very minimal differences in terms of like how we operate, because you find the similarities. There are differences between humans. There's also differences between me and my neighbor, like I know you're not asking about this, but that's kind of one of the things that I notice about traveling is how similar everyone is, and it makes it really a lot easier to empathize with people through that,
Yeah, definitely. Like when you've met different people from different cultures, you can start, kind of like soaking in all the input and setting kind of like a ground level for everyone, sort of.
Did you find that when you moved from Peru to Germany? Like, I imagine the differences between Latin America and Europe are a little bit more severe.
Yeah. Well, I went to German school when I was in Peru, so I knew a little bit of the culture, and I could already speak German, but it was still a big shock. Not the first time I flew here, but the first time I went to visit my family back in Peru, because I had lived already 3 years here. Then I went back, stayed a month in Peru, then came back, and I was like, okay, this is definitely different. Because the people in South America are more open, more warmer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And here, you just get a handshake, and that's it. And it's like this distance, and it's they're a bit more reserved than South Americans mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, you see similarities definitely.
It's funny that I love that about Dominican Republic. We were in Santo Domingo, and that place is really cool, but also really dangerous. They have like the most dangerous driving in the world. Like, so it's so scary. I imagine it's similar in other countries too, but like per capita, they have like the most vehicle accidents like in the world or something crazy high.
Yeah.
Like there's no traffic. Like it's not like in a lot of places in like India or like Thailand where it's just like vroom, vroom, everyone's just driving around each other, but people just drive so fast and they just like there's a lot more speed going on. It's just a lot. It's so scary. But at the same time, everyone you meet is like, yeah, come on, let's go, let's party, I don't know you, I just met you, but let's go do these things together. And it's like, yeah, hell yeah, that's what I'm about,
Yeah.
And so that was really cool, like just to be there. Latin America is really, really fun. And I say Latin America, I've only been to Santo Domingo and Punta Cana, and I haven't had the pleasure of going to South America yet. And I know each country it's like saying like Europe is really cool. So I realized that. But even within Europe, obviously you have like Eastern Europe and Western Europe, and yeah, there's definitely some differences between like the Netherlands and the Ukraine. But at the same time, like it's mostly just the infrastructure that's different. Like the people are, they're going to have their cultural differences, but the individuals, I don't know. Like not really. You just meet them, figure out what they're about, what they like, what they don't like, go from there. Whereas a lot of people I think are like, oh, they're different from me and I'm too nervous to even say hi. Like I've always been so welcomed in different countries, which is probably, it's awesome. It makes traveling so like less scary. People think that Europe is like scary, and Americans think that like all of Europe is like you're gonna get sexually trafficked if you go to Europe once, and it's like America has like the highest level of sex trafficking in the world. Well, some of the highest rates, like 800,000 kids a year or something get like abducted. I have no idea. I saw that number. I have no idea, but it's high, and like people are afraid to go out in Europe. But it's like we actually have homicide rates higher in the U.S. than almost every country in Europe.
Yeah.
Like we own guns. Like there are just things that are so much worse in America that people are actively not traveling. Well, at least not now, but before they would be like, no, I don't want to go to Europe. It's dangerous. And it's like, dude, your city is one of the most dangerous cities. Like in LA, for example, it's like one of the most dangerous cities in the world. People are like, I'm not traveling. You kidding me? Good shot. It's like, what?
Yeah. That's one thing, for example, that it took me a while to get used to living here, because coming from Peru, go from Lima, the capital, and there's like 12 million people in there. And at night, past 10 p.m., I would go take a walk and always have my keys in my hand in case I need to defend myself or something. And here I can just walk, and I know, the chances of getting robbed or stabbed are like very minimal.
Yeah, here in Europe. And versus Peru, you mean?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like so safe.
Yeah, like from what I understand, I might have just misspoke earlier about America. I know there are other places that are also dangerous too. I bet it was really tough to like really trust people as well in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for example, like, I don't know, you've been here before, but like leaving your phone on a table and turning it around and talking to someone and go back and see your phone still lying there. That was like a new thing for me,
Right, because it's like people like stealing is something that's less likely in Germany at least.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because I don't know. It's just I kind of miss traveling a lot right now. Like I would love to just go jump over to Germany because there are things that are like so nice about the differences. Like there are differences in culture, and how people interact in groups, like in different places, and especially in Germany. But like when I was in Berlin, I actually got sick, so I could only hang out I was in the hostel for 3 days, and then I had plans to go to the kitty cat club. I don't know if you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I had plans to go to it because I heard it was cool, and then I didn't go because I got sick. So maybe I saved some time to not go. I don't know what it's about, but my friend was like, "We're gonna go because it's like new. We don't have shit like that in the States, and if we do, it's like you need to know like 100 people to find out that it exists."
Yeah.
And I got sick for the week, but I didn't have a whole lot of time to experience Berlin, but it was still. I just like that you guys got trains everywhere. You can just like hop on a train and get out of the city.
Yeah.
You know. I wish we had some of that over here.
Yeah, that was also new for me coming from Peru because in Peru we only have buses and plane travel, but like I came here and I was like, whoa, it's a train system, and there's a schedule as well.
Yeah.
That was new.
Were the buses in Peru like random?
Yeah, like no schedule. Go there, wait. Maybe you wait half an hour. Maybe you wait 3 seconds, and there's a bus.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you find is like the biggest? Why did you move anyway?
To study music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So how has it been to do that in Germany? I mean, I hear it's a pretty good place for music.
I've learned a lot, and not only about music, I've learned about myself too. Just because my family is still there, so I'm here on my own. And I mean, to me, it was the best decision ever just to go abroad, just from all the input. And I wouldn't be the musician or person that I am today if I had stayed in Peru. Let's put it that way.
Especially because I always try to say this to my friends that are still like really close to their families. I think it's good to be close to your family if they're helpful and supportive and love you. But at the same time, even if they do love you and want you, a lot of times what's best for you is to leave and figure out who you are without their input. Because I think a lot of times people are better off when they're not doing that out of resentment, but like, for example, moving to a different country and living there, like you're on your own now. And you're not going to survive if I don't think most people will survive if they decide to misbehave.
Yeah.
Like if you misbehave while you're traveling, like you don't go to jail. You like get banned from Europe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you get kicked out and you can never go there. Like, and I just found that myself, like you have to almost approach everything more optimistically because otherwise you're not going to learn anything because you don't have anyone else to teach you.
Yeah.
Did you find that like similarly, like that you had to like have an open mind, or did you have like a?
Yeah, for sure. I was lucky enough that a couple of my friends from school also landed on the same city as I did to study, but they studied like business administration or stuff. And at the beginning, we thought about moving in together, but then decided not to do it because otherwise we would speak Spanish all the time, right? We would meet people and we wouldn't just integrate in the culture, so we decided not to do it. And it was just stepping out of, alone speaking the language. German is complicated, and just, being comfortable making mistakes at the beginning, speaking, that took a while, being accepting that, okay, I'm going to make a mistake, but the message that I'm trying to get across is more important than a mistake.
And you speak English too. Did that come from just living in Germany?
Well, just come from playing video games and watching movies.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Yeah.
This is the part where most Americans lack, and myself included. Like I can understand Spanish relatively well if it's not very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know anything else. I mean, I learned a few phrases when I was traveling. Like I'd always learn how to say thank you and you're welcome and hello and goodbye, And then I would never really go too deep because I didn't have to, because most people speak English, which is like really valuable, like it's, how to speak English from Peru living in Germany. Like that's pretty nice. It just makes it difficult to like have the urgency to learn the language. Which even when I went to Spain, it was like everyone spoke English in Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten to Madrid yet. I was planning on it, but like I wanted to go to a place where if I didn't speak the language, I couldn't get by. Like in Poland, for example, there's a lot of places where I needed to know at least like a few more words than yes and no if I wanted to be able to communicate. And so that was like, you got to learn it. And then it's almost better because it's like, it's not that, I mean, I didn't go that deep, but especially because we have like Google and Google Translate and like, you have so many different people that can kind of help you as well if you need it. I imagine that, I mean, you've been there for what, 8 years, you said?
Almost, yes. I was 7. Kind of.
7 years. So like, how long did it take for you to get comfortable with the, like being in Germany in general?
Probably 3 years. Like after, like I mentioned, I came here, then I stayed 3 years, then I went to visit my family once, and then came back. Probably that was the time when I was like, I'm living here already 3 years. I got something going on. That's when I look at it, and now it's like, almost 7 years. Like, wow, it's quite a long time. I mean, it's not a massive amount of time, but still, it's I enjoy what I have here.
Plus, you're forced to be like adapting probably daily, to the lifestyle because, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, talking about sitting with discomfort and getting making that the normal. Like, imagine living in a different. I mean, I can, kind of, but I've never lived somewhere, stayed there, and not left. I've come back and lived in where it's more comfortable, and to have to go against everything that you're kind of growing up with and learn all these new ways of communicating and behaving and, communicating with the community and making friends. Like, I bet that was difficult to do, but at the same time, 7 years probably feels like 20 years for most people because it's almost like being a kid again and like learning all these things that you learn this stuff when you're 7, or whatever, like integrating into society, but like now you got to do it without knowing their language.
Yeah. For example, riding a bike. I learned how to ride a bike as a kid. Never really did it in Peru because it's way too dangerous. Then I come here and everyone rides bikes, and I was like, okay, I have to get back on it. And of course, you don't forget how to do it, but you have to like raise your hand to the right if you want to turn and all that stuff. And I didn't know that, so there's sometimes with cars honking on me and people calling me names because not giving directions correctly.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
That must have been so difficult.
Yeah, it took some time until I figured out, okay, they're actually doing it because they want to turn.
That's one of the coolest things too is that not everyone, I would say everyone. It's not everyone. A lot of people are on bikes, which is, I think, pretty fun because in America it's just highways everywhere. So like people just drive. And also most of the cities are harder to get to. You have to drive to them. Like in most places, there's no train to get to the city center. Mm-hmm. I do miss that like ease of transport to get to the place where everyone is. Do you like that? Or
for example, Tuesday, so we're recording this on a Wednesday. Tuesdays,
based on Tuesday?
Yeah, based on Tuesday, yeah. On Tuesday, I teach in a music school, which is, I think from a distance, I think it's like 130 kilometers where I live. And if you take the car, it's probably like maybe 2 hours at the most of a drive. But I take the train because I don't have a European driver's license. And it takes me 3 hours to get there. I teach the whole day and 3 hours back. And lately there's been some construction work happening. So I don't know if I'm going to catch my connections every time I leave. And that's super stressful. But just, going to the train station, hopping on the train, I put on a podcast and just sit there. Then I'm somewhere else when it's done. That's very comfortable. And otherwise I would have to drive. I would be stressed driving. And, that's definitely a big advantage. Being able to take a train.
Yeah. Trains are my favorite, but it's when you first get on a train in a new country with a different language, it's not as stress. It's very stressful because it's like, you want me to get off at what? What am I even looking for? What word is that? I don't even know how it sounds.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't even know what it really looks like actually.
Yeah.
Someone will like tell you where to get off to, and they'll say it in like how it would sound in English. And then you listen to it, like, let's say in Austrian or whatever. And it's like, you what? You know? And that I find I've always noticed since I've been to a lot of countries, but usually my process is like, figure out where you're going to need to go more often and go there. Just go there as many times as you can and get used to that, because then then it is more calming and you can just figure it out. But the most stressful thing with going to a new place so often is creating those habits that you would take for granted in a place that you live in. You know, like, where is the grocery store? Where is the closest gas station? Or where's the closest convenience store? And where's the gym? I would always make sure I knew where the gym was. How do I get to the gym? What's the cheapest way to get to the gym? What's the most efficient way? You know, should I get a bike? Should I get a scooter? Like, and no, just doing that all on your own is like, it's nice because you get to like constantly be in a state of like discomfort. But at the same time, it's like, oh, can I just go home and know where everything is now? I'm ready to just do that, you know?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I made that call, and then right now we just like can't come to Europe, so that sucks. But at the same time, there's that thing. You can do that anywhere. I mean, you can do that you can just shift up your habits. Like, if you don't usually go to the park, or you don't usually meditate, or you don't usually have a schedule, you know, it's like those are similar feelings of like discomfort. And that's why going back, wrapping this like idea up of like the discomfort and getting used to it, it's like new habits are just it's uncomfortable by nature because it's not what you're used to. But at the same time, what's comfortable can be good. Like, if you're comfortable with your workflow and that's producing content and you're getting excited about that and like you're making money and whatever, then comfort is good. But if you're not comfortable, if you're comfortable and unhappy,
Yeah.
then my thought is maybe it's good to introduce some things like traveling, where you are forced to be uncomfortable, and you know, you got to think about things that challenge you, you know.
Yeah. You mentioned something about the habits and how when you were like, I think you were like 3 weeks in a city or at the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was your process on keeping your habits that you usually do to stay productive, and also maybe adapting new things to be able to, you know, perform at your best when you were jumping from city to city?
It was really difficult to have a streamlined process when there's a lot of traveling. What I ended up doing, like, at first it was really difficult because I was resisting the idea that it was going to take some time in a new city to like adapt to everything. And so I would always convince myself that it would be fine because I'd get excited about traveling, and then I'd need time to like reset my body clock if there's a time zone change, or usually the travel itself was really stressful. So I'd lose like a day and a half or 2 days. I mean, especially when I was traveling to a new place every week, like that's really stressful because the traveling days are pretty much shot. Like, you're not going to get any work done while you're traveling unless you're a super freak or you're doing something really simple like on your phone.
Yeah.
And I would do a lot of that on my phone. Anything I could do on Instagram, I would do while I was traveling, which is funny because now that I'm not traveling, like my desire to post on Instagram is a lot less because I don't have these like periods where I can't do anything else, like video editing, for example. But yeah. So the days I was traveling became really pretty much like, yeah, you're not going to get much done. Maybe during that time I can communicate with my clients. So instead of focusing on like video production, I'd focus on like my coaching, and then when I get to the place, you got to find the Airbnb, you got to figure out where it is, you got to walk there. So you're really tired. And I had like 40 kilos of luggage either on my back or, both on my back. And well, for most of my traveling, I had my camera bag on my back and my luggage on my front. So I'd have this massive bag on my front. Yeah. And that was heavy. So no matter what, I was getting some freaking exercise in. And so then I was really hungry. You get back from the airport and you're walking there because or you get a taxi, but they don't drop you off exactly where you want, so you got to walk. And then most places in Europe don't have elevators, so you got to walk up the staircase, and then there's no AC in a lot of places, so now it's hot. So it's hot, you're doing a lot more work than you're used to, you don't know where you are, and you haven't brushed your teeth, and you haven't showered, and you have work to do for the day after, but you haven't even got clothes or groceries, and you need food, because if you don't get the groceries, then you won't have the ability to like eat food at home. So now you got to go to the restaurant to get food, so now you don't have like, that's like half of the day spent trying to figure out how to do something that you would do in half of a second, if you're used to it.
Yeah.
So I would prioritize getting the fundamentals down. Food, where's the gym at? Do I need like toiletries? Do I need toilet paper and toothbrush, and do I need more toothpaste? Getting these things are essential. Coffee, essential coffee. Getting those things locked in and focusing on that versus all the work I had to do. And this is also why meditation was really important, because I knew that I was sacrificing productivity for this, right? I knew I was gaining a lot as well, and my internal dialogue is that everyone's annoyed that I'm not getting work done. But because of that, I was also like ready to get work done when I was in that spot. So after I got all my essentials, I would then set up my workstation, which is effectively my laptop and my charger. But a lot of times with laptops, people will just take their laptop out and then they'll get frustrated because their computer died and now they got to go charge it. So instead of like messing with that game, I would just find a desk, set it up, get my hard drives out, get everything out that I need or I would need, so that I'm not fidgeting with that before starting. I have it plugged in my computer and I'm ready to go, and it's open on my files. And when I want to make a YouTube video or I need to coach, everything's where I need it. And so I do that as quickly as I could. Like all that happens on day one is set up the desk, get my food, get my toothbrush, my toothpaste, figure out where everything is. Do I need water? Does it have clean water in the country that I'm in? If I'm not, I need to go back to the grocery store and get more water, because especially like in Ukraine, you can't drink the tap water. This shit's got like radiation from, what was that? Chernobyl, right? I don't know, probably not, but it's not good. Like you can technically drink it, but most people say it's not good. Yeah, so you got to go down to the store and you got to get gallons of water, because you don't want to go every day to get water. You need to have, full trips where you're carrying 2 gallons, 3 gallons. I mean, I would usually get 7-gallon jugs or like 7-liter jugs, and I carry them back 2 hands. I don't have room for other stuff usually, unless I want to, put my food. So it's like 2 trips to the grocery store, right? And you got to prepare for all of that. And like those are things you wouldn't think about if you're a content producer.
Yeah.
Like traveling, you think, oh, whatever, I'll just get food. And in some places, it's so cheap that I could just skip that and I could just work at a restaurant and eat at the restaurant. And in Ukraine, one of those places, I could do that. And I loved it because I had Wi-Fi. And I'm like, yes, I didn't need a lot of Wi-Fi to work on something. I had all my hard drives with me, so I'd carry that if I wanted to go. But, either way, I needed to have it all ready. Mm-hmm. So, and I also, my microphone, I'd make sure to get that out of my bag. And all these things add up. You have so much in your bag that you're storing, and it can be a pain in the ass if you're like, where are my headphones? Where's my microphone? Where's my hard drive? If you did that all when you wanted to start, you just wasted 15 minutes just setting up, and now you have not even started yet. You've done nothing, and the computer isn't even on. You know what I mean? So the first 2 days are like that. If you understood what I just said for the last 5 minutes, it's that. It's chaos, and you need to accept it and set it up like it's the first time you've ever done something, so that in hopefully 2 or 3 days, you're no longer stressed out about the basics and you can work. And if I was traveling again on the weekend, I would have effectively 3 days to work. So unfortunately, the dream life of traveling and having vacation and all that at once and working, it never happened because I always had work to do.
Yeah.
But what I did like is that if I did have 1 or 2 nights to mess around, go out, meet people, go on some cruises or whatever, well, I just worked my ass off for 6 days, and at least it felt like it. Even if it wasn't the most productive thing, I still had to do a lot to get the things done. And I would be up late. I didn't have a great sleep schedule. I wasn't too concerned about that because I was in Europe, so most of our calls were like noon, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., so I was never like, oh, I got to get up. Now that I'm in the U.S., all of our calls are like 9 a.m., 10, 11, so I can't wake up at 2,
Yeah.
which I was more comfortable with when I was traveling because I could work at night,
Yeah.
Hopefully that synopsis was helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I know it, for example, I don't know, for example, when I play a show or something, and I get with a band, we're in a band, and then we all travel to the gig, for example, and on the way there, usually maybe we can grab some food, maybe don't, maybe there's catering, maybe there's no catering. You don't know the venue, you don't really know if there's like like a place to pack all your stuff. You don't know how big the backstage is. Do they have water? Usually all of that is included in the tech rider, but still, I remember we played a show and we decided to make a stop at Burger King, and I was starving. I got myself a Bacon King or something, and I threw it up on the way to the show. I was feeling completely sick, and now I know. Okay, when I play a show, I'm not gonna buy a burger on the way there because I'm gonna get sick. And playing with a full stomach or really fatty food, it's not that good. So you learn from doing all that stuff and
Yeah.
the uncertainty of what's gonna be on the way there.
Well, setting up a show is kind of like traveling because it's the same thing. I mean, you don't just go to your room where everything's set up and you play. If your one wire isn't connected, you're done.
Yeah.
So you got to prep. Like that's why you're probably what time if you had a show like how early do you show up?
It depends on how far the show is, but for example, if the show is at 8, you definitely have to have like sound check at like 5 p.m. maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, sound check. Maybe that takes an hour and a half. Then you have some time to eat and then play. But it depends a lot on the type of show, but definitely a couple of hours earlier, and then you have to travel there. You have to pack all your stuff. And
do you do a lot of like visualization for your shows? Because I always find that that's helpful too. Is instead of like getting hit in the face with all this stuff you got to do, it's like, for example, if you're traveling, you're trying to get things set up. Instead of like, oh my gosh, where's my stuff? It's like, okay, so I need my computer. I already think about like unloading basically before I actually do it, so I don't get anxious about the fact that I have to do it. I just accept. I've already acknowledged that it's a thing, that it's a little bit uncomfortable, that I got to redo it, like reset. Right? Do you do that with your shows?
For example, like I already think about what I need to bring probably the day before we're playing, and if it's like a longer row of shows, I definitely prepare more time ahead. But I know I'm gonna take that bass. I need this effects. I know I'm gonna pack my amplifier, my bass cabinet, and all that. So I definitely have a list to check, because if I forget one cable, like you said, then I'm kind of screwed. I kind of hope that someone or band member has the cable for me, and you don't want to be that guy, right?
Yeah. Oh, and that probably causes a lot of anxiety too.
Yeah.
Like, well, I always feel like anxiety is helpful as long as you don't like let it prevent you from planning. Like, if you're anxious about something, you can't sleep. My thought is always like, okay, good. Like if you're meditating, that's what I notice. And I don't meditate a lot right now, which I probably should, but I do try to do things that are meditative in nature. Like one of the things I do is go to the dog park and throw the ball to my dog. And I don't use my phone while I'm there. I just try to focus on being present with Luna. And if people are there, like I try to acknowledge them, but like I'm really not there for people. I'm there to like for myself to like walk through the park and to kind of let go of all the things that I was just working on. But if I do go there and there is something on my mind that's really stressing me out and I can't stop thinking about it, then I have two options. I either have a conversation with the person that I'm talking or thinking about, or if it's a productivity issue, then when I do get home, I tell myself like, okay, you've acknowledged that that's a thing you're thinking about. Now the next step is to acknowledge it, write it down, maybe make a note about it so that when you get back home, that can be something that you kind of tackle and you take over.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm perfect about, but it's something that if I'm meditating and I'm thinking about one thing and that's it, I know I got to do that. Like I got to tackle that thing, because otherwise I'm usually in a good mood. Otherwise I'm chilling. I mean, meditation becomes this like, damn, I'm pumped about life right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I'm sure you've had those sessions where you just can't stop thinking about something and you're like, this is not helpful, or maybe it is. Like, I think people think after every meditation session, they should be just like, I'm a perfect human. It's like, no, you probably won't think that way because you've messed up and you probably need to do some things that, help you to feel better, because some conversations need to be had. It's not, you don't just let everything go. It's not about ignorance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's some meditation sessions that just like, you just kind of like focus, but there's this one thing that keeps coming. But still taking that time where you're like, zone out or other things that makes you realize, okay, how important that one thing actually is to you, instead of like all this chaos that's around you at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of people like to distract themselves with other activities and other stressors to kind of mask the one stressor that is probably the most important to kind of focus on, right? Like if you want to make a new video for YouTube, but you're used to making the same kinds of videos, that might be on your mind. You might just say, all right, if I want to change, if I want to make this change, I need to like reset the palette.
Yeah.
I need to go back to the basics and reset, because otherwise I'm going to make the same videos and, I'm not going to be happy with them. Like, that's how I feel about, I'm making this video. It's like it's an interview. I'm turning the interview into like kind of a documentary, or like a 10-minute documentary, whatever. And it's something I've never done before. And I actually fully edited the video back in December, but it was shitty. Like, I didn't like it, and it was technically done, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I was like, I'll get back to it. And then I haven't. It's August now. And the lifter is like waiting on it and been waiting on it. I'm like, it's August, right? Like, it's like 8 months ago. But also it doesn't feel like 8 months ago. It feels like a few, like 2. And the reason is just because I'm prioritizing getting content out in general over, making something that might be meaningful to the lifters. And so I always find that I have to really just accept that I might take some extra time for something that's more stressful than the thing that's normal. It goes back to that comfort. Like, you're comfortable making the templated videos that have the same structure, same music, same whatever, but eventually you got to slap yourself in the face and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're familiar with this book, The One Thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That thing changed my mind completely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I mean, I might be at home and I have a lot of things to do, different things, right? And when I ask myself that question, okay, what's the one thing I can do right now that's gonna make things easier in the future?
Mm-hmm.
There's always something that pops out. Okay, I have to do this first, and then I tackle that. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like notorious for reading like a few chapters of books like that and then figuring out that I get it, and then I don't read the rest of it because I'm like, I think I get the point. I probably should read all of them, but I do like that. I mean, that kind of helped me a lot. It's difficult when you read books like that. They give you these insights, but then you're working on a team and you don't have always full control over like the one thing that you think is important. It's like what's something you think is important, and then what's the thing that someone else thinks is important for you to do. Yeah. Hopefully they match, but if they don't, it's like, okay, well, but I think this is more important, But I think that's a really good thing, because there's always something to do. And I like the whole domino effect that they talk about, where it's like, you need to start somewhere. And if you have momentum on your side, then if you just keep doing it, if you keep grinding, the progress that you'll make from the fact that you're grinding is much greater than like resetting every time and trying to do it perfect every time. Like, I don't know if that was what the book was about, because I didn't read all of it, but I know that the main focus was to declutter your thoughts and find like you said, the one thing that you can lock into, versus trying to do everything. Because you'll be surprised what can happen if you focus on the one thing and then the next one thing and then the next one. You prioritize your fucking priorities. What are the things that you want to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's difficult to do because we tend to think that everything we do is important and almost of equal importance. And so we don't want to prioritize things because it almost feels nice to think that we have no time to do all the things we want to do. And then it's like, well, you still got to go somewhere. You got to go forward, right? So that's kind of my thoughts. It's like, yeah, go find the thing that's important. Find the thing that is the most important, the thing that's on your mind. And meditation is what helps with that because it'll kind of come naturally. Like I would go on walks with Luna all the time in the winter. I would walk on the ice, or like we have in Minnesota, we have all these lakes that freeze over and then there's snow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really nice because the only thing you can hear are your footsteps and your voice. So you can't even hear people. There's no one I get to interact with but me and Luna. So I'll chuck the ball like 100 yards and then she'll go, I can't hear anything. And then she comes back and it goes, and then it's like, what was I thinking about before she came back to me, And whatever that thing is, it's like, all right, I'm enjoying this and I breathe through it and accept it. And I go home and that's the thing I do. And, I feel like I'm doing the book a disservice because I don't remember a lot of the points because I read half the book and then I got frustrated because my business partner was the one thing that needed in my mind to get things done. And then, it's like they don't do it. And you're like, well, I guess I'll do it then, Like if you have a team, this stuff becomes more difficult because you're working with more people's priorities and a lot of times they don't align with yours. And that's frustrating.
How would you tackle that situation, for example?
Well, for example, if I thought that the most important thing was that we focused on making better YouTube videos, but the other person thinks the best thing to do is make better emails or whatever, or focus on coaching, and they think that videos don't matter and we shouldn't do anything for free, then it's kind of hard to figure out the next step. My strategy has always been to find the people who understand the value but might not know how to bring it, and optimize it. And so I've recently built a team in the marketing department so that it didn't really matter if the people in the operations department didn't agree with me. It's not something they're going to be using or doing anyway. So I guess the sidestep way is to find people that you can mentor and teach and maybe even are already good at that thing so that they can focus on their one thing, you can focus on your one thing, and then as a result, you're working towards the greater, the global one thing, right? So if it's video production, well, I don't want to make the thumbnails because I'm not very good at it, or I'm not really good at the After Effects aspect of video production, but I can make the colors look good and I can do the editing. So the one thing for me is to find the person that can help me with the After Effects and the thumbnails, and I focus on my thing, right? So I don't know. I mean, it depends. Like, do you want to be the leader or do you want to be the follower? I'd rather lead because I know what the vision is and I need help with it.
Yeah.
And so my perspective is some people aren't going to be on the same side, and you have to decide whether or not it's worth working with them. And it's okay if it's not. Like, they probably have a different vision for what they want to do. You might have a conversation with like your explanation and make sure that they're in alignment, because the worst thing you can do is go into business with somebody who has a completely different vision for how they think the business will grow.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're just conflicting all the time.
Yeah.
Or there's confliction because one person is procrastinating and the other person is hustling, and now you're trying to figure out which person is working harder, and you don't want to be there either. So I think it's kind of like you got to find the people that work well with you, because there are going to be people that do. I mean, I've found some pretty incredible people like within Minnesota that are work really well with me because we have this collective vision. And I think that's kind of a bigger discussion about culture within business. But I think it's important to accept that not everyone is going to have the same priorities as you, but then also ask yourself, does it matter if their priorities are different? If it's impacting your priorities, then maybe that's a more important discussion to have. If it's not, like if you have someone in a different department of the business that thinks that the best way forward is to improve, the way we communicate with our employees, like that's not wrong. It's just that they can't help me with the thing I think is important. So fine, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the thing is you have to communicate what's important so you understand where everyone is at. And then you also have to have conversations about, let's say someone agrees with you, but they don't have the skill. Well, maybe then your next step is to teach them those things, and it's going to take a while till you can just let go. You might have to handhold for a little bit, and then you can, let them go their own way, or they can just do the thing, right? They can edit the video without a lot of issue.
Where can people find you if they want to, for example, get coaching from you to get strong as hell?
You can find me at reactivetrainingsystems.com. That's our website. And you can go to coaching if you are interested in getting jacked as hell and really strong, understand your processes better, how to find better training plans, and a way to really optimize your own body and your own performance. You can also find me on Instagram at Jim_RTS and at Reactive Training Systems on Instagram. We also have a production company, me and my friend, called Let's Get It Media. It's LETSGEDIT Media on Instagram. On YouTube, it's Let's Get It, LEGEDIT. And those are the main places to find me.
Cool. Awesome. I really enjoyed talking to Jim today because talking to someone who also does social media work but in a completely different industry and also works as a coach and has traveled quite a bit is definitely very inspiring for me, and I hope you guys could learn something from this. If you want to learn more about what Jim does, don't forget to check out his Instagram at Jim_RTS, the Reactive Training System Instagram, which is at Reactive Training Systems, and that is also their YouTube channel, and you can also check out the Reactive Training System podcast. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.